Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for attending, and thank you to Creator IQ for organizing this incredible event, extremely well attended. As was just announced, Nathan Coyle, President, overseeing influencer marketing globally at IPG Media Brands, varied career, creative artist agency, publisher side, kind of every table in this crazy business, seat at the table in this crazy business. And two incredible speakers today, Aaron North and Kenna. I'm going to let them introduce themselves because their careers are so dynamic and fabulous that I would screw it up. Kenna?
Oh yeah, drop it on us. Nice to see you all. I'm Kenna. I'm an artist, visual and sonic artist, strategist, ECD for brands, and then I'm also the founder now of a invite-only managed marketplace that smart matches premium talent and brands called R&D.
Very cool, very cool. Nice to meet you as well. Aaron North. I have two names. I don't have the one name thing going yet, which is awesome, by the way. My background, I spent about a decade at various agencies, whether it be consumer marketing, promotion, advertising, and then I left the dark side. It's so hard for anybody who knows longtime agency. And I moved client side. I went to Taco Bell and was there for a little over 5 years, was part of the repositioning rebrand there, and then got recruited to join a company called Ultra Mobile. And Mint Mobile wasn't even a thing at the time. And I hope most people here know what Mint Mobile is. We're a wireless company that Ryan Reynolds is an owner of. And it just feels so weird to say this, but built it from scratch. With a huge team, and like we built it up together. But yeah, that's what brought me here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming and great to have the two of you. Let's just jump right in. I think that a perfect point to start this conversation is around the relationship and roles that celebrities and notable personalities have with brands. So look, endorsements have been around for, 5 decades, if not longer. And, in recent sort of decades, you think of, Julia Roberts for Lancome, George Clooney for Nespresso. What I'd love to hear from the two of you is how in the last 5 years, let's call it 7 years, artists and notable talent and celebrities are working with brands in very new and very different ways versus that kind of historic model. What's the difference?
Compare past and present. I think for us, the big differentiating point is that Ryan is not just a celebrity spokesperson for us. Ryan is an owner of the company. And that brings a different dynamic to the way we work with him. I think the most important thing, and maybe one of the biggest shifts, is that he's vested and invested in the company. So he's not looking for just what 30-second spot are we making? What social post do I have to do to meet my requirements? He wants to know, where are we going with the business? What are we doing? What are our objectives? What's the broader vision? And then how can I bring narrative, really compelling advertising, fast advertising, and storytelling to the brand in a way that will help us get not only short-term sales. We always talk about sales overnight, brand over time. We want to build both. And with him and the way we're structured, it's just very different from that traditional celebrity spokesperson, which I've done many, many times in the past. It just feels different. And because he's so invested, I think what's really neat is the high engagement level that we get from him. So a lot of people ask me, is he really as cool as he is in person? And the answer is yes, he's that guy. But two, he really does care and he is involved. I get messages from him. We work almost exclusively in text. So we're texting each other all the time. I'm giving him business updates, objectives changing, goals moving, and he responds with an understanding of what the big finish line is, not just one execution. And I think that's a huge change in the way influencers and creators and celebrity work with brands.
Do you think, well, Kenna, why don't you jump in and then I have a question.
Of course. I think, first of all, Ryan Reynolds is like a unicorn, right? Like the guy's handsome and smart and all that stuff. And then he's got an incredible team like George and James, Tony, and those guys. And what's powerful about somebody like him is he's dynamically used his platform to become ubiquitous in a very unique way. And I think a lot of talent realizes the only way to really maintain relevance in the world now is to diversify in really smart and thoughtful ways. So, you know, 10, 15 years ago, talent would shun brands because it's not cool. Like, it wouldn't be good for our brand. It wouldn't be good for our audiences. They know that we're endorsing something. Now, with the advent of all of the social media builds, there is such a different approach because of sheer volume, right? There's so much stuff. It's just too much stuff, to be honest. And so there's real opportunity in the connective tissue to partner thoughtfully with brands that you actually use, that you actually care about. It's kind of the old soap opera model that used to just kind of float in the background of TV shows. Now it's kind of life because everyone has a channel and they have an opportunity to reach their audiences authentically. The real challenge, I feel like, for talent now is the fact that it's so difficult to get to them and to know them. And brands have a challenge trying to activate with talent at volume or at scale. And that's a lot of why I'm building R&D, is because there's such information asymmetry between the relationship with a brand and talent. How do you clean that up? But I think we as talent really do see brands as the Medicis now. They're the ones who are funding the arts, and being able to support the greatest storytellers is a really powerful thing with the vehicles you guys have.
Yeah, I mean, these are super interesting. And the point you said about getting to talent, in that, and what you talked about in Ryan's relationship with Mint, again, the old world, your agent, lawyer, manager negotiated the deal. Maybe you said, do you want to do this? Sure. And then you're told, in 6 weeks to show up to render some service days to shoot a commercial. You maybe say hello to the, agency production people and the client if you're a nice, a nice artist, and then you're out, right? And the relationship with Ryan, is incredibly different, which leads me to the related question, which, to have these kinds of relationships between a brand and artists like that, what does it, is it ownership? Is it an ownership stake? Or are there other things, which this is a leading question, spoiler alert, but are there other ways that an artist, celebrity can get excited about working with a brand that's not necessarily predicated on having an equity position?
Yeah, I think every situation has to be different. Like, first off, when I joined this company, it was recognized as the fastest growing private company in America that nobody had heard of, right? Like, we had a brand, Ultramobile. I didn't even know what it was. I had to go look it up and find it. But for us, we talk about core values of the company. One of them is ownership. It's our first core value. And everybody who's an employee has stock options, and we're a privately held company. So for our unique situation and what we wanted to do with our brand, ownership made sense. If you're Tide or Procter and Gamble or, Kraft, I think that can be pretty hard to do, because what are you going to gain? What's accretive? What's incremental to where you're headed? And is ownership the right way to get there? I think you might be able to substitute ownership for a long-term agreement, right? What you really want to do is you want to have the celebrity or the person not only bought in, but bought into the idea and the broader vision of what you're doing, and having that long-term relationship gets you there. And I think ownership is a fast way to make that happen, because you're in it for the long haul from the start. And I think that really separates and makes a difference. At least it has for us, because right away it was educate me, teach me about prepaid wireless, which is a really boring space. I mean, we've tried to make it interesting with the work we're doing, but you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't smell it. It just works in your phone. And when it doesn't, you scream at our customer service agents. But it's true. I listen to the calls. They're cruel sometimes. But I think having someone who really cares about long-term brand health, long-term business health is the differentiator, because in the past it used to just be, you're getting paid X, you're going to deliver Y, and then you're done. And I don't know if that model is perfect anymore, because you need transparency. Consumers have access to these celebrities in a one-on-one setting via social and things like that, where they can see through the bullshit. And it's just that simple.
Yeah, I think two of you both hit on something that I do think is a factor here. One is, as you were saying, just having a passion for the brand, liking the brand, and then the long-term relationship versus, again, just showing up for one service day to shoot a 30-second spot. One example for me that comes to mind is a relationship that we forged when I was at Refinery 29 between Allison Williams and Keds. And she loved the brand, which like was not just BS coming from her agent, but we came to find out she really did. And it was a year-long relationship. Guess what? We're getting, images texted to us of like paparazzi photos of her walking her dog in New York City wearing Keds. Like she was wearing Keds every time she went out of the house. The client was over the moon. And we're like, look, we didn't put in her agreement, like you have to wear Keds when you walk the dog. She just did. So yeah, I think those are interesting and important variables. Ken, any other thoughts on that piece?
No, I'll double tap on that and say that I think that, money's not the only currency with talent. I think we have to like consider the fact that, how we perceive our futures. Most talent are trailblazers. They're pushing forward culture. They are at the front. I kind of consider talent the physics layer of culture. Everything else is derived from that. Influence is derived from that. Advertising is derived from that. There'll be something that happens in a music video or like from David Fincher, the GOAT, doing BMW films that becomes, the Transporter series by Luc Besson. Like there's so many things that are born out of the creative force of talent. The reality is that we need alliances for sustainability. You think that stars are stars and they're rich as hell and they're living their best life, but in most cases, they're not. And right now, there's a huge strike happening in our business that's eating everything alive. And it's because there is a lack of transparency and connectivity for us to be able to actually work at scale with partners we actually care about. And to me, it's the idea of being truly collaborative and knowing what talent cares about, to find somebody like Ryan who actually sees his value as a whole and then is able to translate that in many ways. You have to choose as an artist to recognize where you really belong in the world and fill that white space smartly, and to be thoughtful and not to price yourself out of things, and to learn about the economy around you. But guess what? I just want to play my instrument. I just want to sing my songs. I want to go on stage. I want to make my movie. I want to be in the TV show that actually is written by the writer that I love and the showrunner and the directors that are insane. Like, I just want to do that, right? And the problem that therein lies is the issue is that we don't have that kind of early stage access to partners who will be there with us to write that show, or to be there with us to make that video, or to be there with us to be a part of that tour. And so changing the dynamic there, it's not as much about whether or not you gave me $1 million. It's about whether or not you helped me get to my goal and help me make that vision happen, right? And I think, Ryan will have worked his ass off to get to the point where he can invest and be a part of, that. He would have taken so many L's over 20 years of his career, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've hit on something really important as well, which is it's not just money. If anybody's heard Ryan speak or George Dewey, they talk about fast advertising and the ability to do work at the speed of culture. We've done ads where we read a tweet in the middle of the day and I got a text message that says, I'm on my way to a shoot. I'm like, we're shooting today? What? Like, what are we doing? And they're like, yeah, we saw this tweet. We reached out. Dave Foley is the person who tweeted. He said he wants to be in a Mint ad. So we're on our way to his house. We're going to go shoot it. And like giving your partner, right? Like, cause that's what we're really talking about here is partnership, but giving your partnership that freedom to grow. And also, I say this a lot, a big piece of my job is know when to shut the fuck up. Like it's a huge piece of my job. I remember our first campaign we did with Ryan and George, and we were looking at it. They wanted to bring back Little Shop of Horrors. Oh my God, the name all of a sudden escapes me. But I'm going, wait a minute, this actor hasn't been in anything for 30 years, and I'm going, wow, this feels high risk for our launch campaign. But then at the same time, I'm like, who are you to stop these two? Like, you might have the title of chief marketing officer, but give me a break. These are the real creative geniuses. Let them go. Let them play. Let them have fun because they have a different vision or they can see things that I can't see. And we did it, and it was a massive success. So
That's a
Can I-
big part of it. Just to quickly play out, like
Yeah.
flipping the who has the authority, right? Again, in the old world, it's the creative agency. No offense to creative agencies, coming up with the idea, writing the script, and then just plopping the talent in it to perform the role. Versus saying, and approaching an artist and saying, no, we want you to bring your gifts and talents and actually collaborate on what the hell it is we end up making together.
I'll double tap on that because there's a moment, I won't say who the artist was, but there was a pretty significant artist, I'd say very significant artist working with Twitter, and they called me in kind of a Ray Donovan kind of role every once in a while to fix shit. And they had me come in, and they had been working with him for 6 months trying to close a deal. They were fighting so hard on this 1 or 2 deal points because they felt like their brand needed to make sure that they could protect themselves. And all he asked for was creative control. And they weren't able to give him that, and it held it up for 6 months. And I came in and I said, give him creative control. And they were like, but we can't. I was like, actually, you need to know that he is more worried about his brand than you are yours.
Exactly.
And he will never do anything to mess up your brand because he cares about him. So he ended up getting the creative control and then said, cool, what do you guys want to do? And they did everything they wanted to do with him, and it was done. But it's that kind of like minuscule thing that changes the dynamic of the relationship that should be, considered.
can I jump in on that? Because so in our business, we sell the service, but we don't sell we sell the hardware, but we don't make it. And we are doing deals with hardware manufacturers. And it's really interesting because they live in that old world, right? We want to have script creative input. We want to be on set. We want to do this. I'm like, you were talking to the wrong team. Like, I'm leaving after this to go to New York to shoot. I got the scripts last night. If you think you're going to get them weeks in advance, you're crazy. And if you think they're going to rewrite them for you, you're nuts. But exactly what you said. They care about their brand so much, they're not going to put themselves in a situation where any of this looks bad. So I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, I mean, that's a journey that advertisers have had to come on with the, rise of social media and other types of platforms, which is, in a phrase, relinquishing control. And guess what? When you relinquish that control, like really cool shit can happen, that's more authentic, more sincere, true to the artist and who she or he is. So that's great. So we don't have a ton of time left. As we know, celebrity partnerships can really skyrocket. Ryan, Mint Mobile, Selena Gomez, Rare Beauty, in other cases, less so. I think, for this room, I think folks would be interested to hear your thoughts about, what are the things that an advertiser or its representatives, an agency, what have you, should keep in mind or think about when contemplating the idea of aligning with a celebrity?
I mean, I'll probably just do a selfish plug, actually.
Go for it.
If I can, R&D, is an invite-only platform, not for exclusivity, but for accreditation. So, we have at this point early applied 500 of the top talent of the world in one place, so that partners can actually connect with them. And the goal here is really to say, I can actually privately and carefully put forward what I'm working on next, and you can find it there and make sure that it's contextual to what you're looking for as a brand. If it's going to be a Coachella thing or it's going to be, you're looking for a film to be integrated in or to be a part of a film or music video or anything else, social post, the whole idea is really making it contextual. So, the artist already cares about your brand, is interested in you, and wants you to be a part of their business. And I feel like the tools are missing. I mean, I think there's like just literally a missing element, and I hope R&D is a part of that. But at the exact same time, I'll say for everyone that when you think about talent, think about who they might be in this moment, but also try to think about who they might want to become, and ask the questions. Like you ask the artist or agency will come to you. Sorry, agency will come to you and talk to you about your brand and what your goals are and what your future is and what you're looking for as a brand in the world. And they'll then build campaigns for you. The artists on the same side are brands. So ask them what they want, what they're doing, where they're going, what they want to accomplish, and it might line up with you more. And you might be able to pivot your campaign to be more thoughtfully connected to their audiences. And then that will make a much better outcome, I think.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. I'm going to take my answer and do the step before, which is I think the brand and the organization need to understand a couple of things. Like what is the business objective? What is the marketing objective? And then akin to that is, are your CEO and CFO aligned, right? Because I don't know. I mean, look, CFO's got the purse strings, ear of the CEO. If they're aligned and they're bought into your vision and why you're doing celebrity and what celebrity is going to get you, or even just partnerships in general, it makes life so much easier, right? Like we talk about sales overnight, brand over time. Everybody on my team can repeat it. My leadership team will repeat it because we're pounding it all the time. That's what we want. We want to be able to do those two things. And here's how celebrity is going to get us there. And once my leadership team was bought in, it made everything so much easier because you can easily point to, we're doing this for this reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really liked kind of what you said about finding those alignments, is work, and it requires tools, it requires conversations. I can think of many a time where we're talking to a particular advertiser about a particular celebrity, and the question is, well, have they like hashtag mentioned our brand in their Instagram feed? And it's like, well, they may have, but probably not. But that's not really the criteria that we should be just solely considering. We should find out where we kind of intersect. And so, speaking of intersecting, something Aaron and you and I had talked about is, when you have a celebrity that's so deeply involved and attached to a brand, an equity stake, or what have you, how do you find ways to, in the case of Mint, really preserve the Mint brand so it's not Ryan Reynolds Mobile, it's Mint Mobile, versus, on the other end of the spectrum, like something like, say, Kylie Cosmetics, which is, she should just change her last name from Jenner to Cosmetics. So yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts about how you navigate that.
Right. For us, two things. Like I don't know anybody who wants to be the face of prepaid wireless per se, right? So that's like an obvious one. But like you also have to understand the consumer and why they buy. So people want to buy wireless for price, coverage, reliability. Like they're very functional requirements. They also don't want to get screwed by the provider. So for us, we knew we had to create a distinction between the two. We were going to always use Ryan as a way to legitimize our business, showcase that our business was something different. It was disruptive. Our brand DNA, because the brand was 3.5, 4 years old before Ryan came on board. So we had already built a lot of the foundation there. And you could see through a Venn diagram that the circles had lots of overlapping space. But when it came to the actual wireless service provider, we wanted to make sure there was a separation from him. So that way, like we felt like that did a couple of things. One, gave us longevity with the brand. We always had, as a business, an exit as part of our long-term strategy, right? So we wanted to do that. And we also felt like it took pressure off of the partnership, right? It's a lot to ask someone to be the name of and the face of. With this, it allowed us to also do things like be very transparent when we make mistakes. Like that may be one of his core attributes, but it's a critical brand attribute. And I don't think you want Ryan Reynolds Mobile admitting to a mistake. It's not a good look. And we had done a lot of that mental math beforehand. And for us, creating that distinction was the best way forward. And I think you have to figure out what's right. Like in the example you gave, I think you want the face, right? You want the person to be the face because that's going to really connect and actually move volume. In our case, it didn't seem like that was a prudent approach.
Got it. Kind of anything else?
No, I just agree with everything you said.
So we have 30 seconds left. This will be the speed question, which I had asked you to think about. In our last 30 seconds, any examples come to mind that are really good or made a mistake of brands and celebrities?
I didn't want to name names, and I won't. but
Neither, bro.
there are certain people who are just overexposed, and I think you got to be really careful. Like, if they're on their 8th, 9th, 10th that are currently live, like, what are you going to get out of that? Like, how much attention can you really demand of that person? I also get like when I was at Taco Bell, we had used Charles Barkley. Just know that like when you sign up for a person, you're signing up. I think we've said this, the whole person. And we loved him, and he did great for us. But he has had times where he has misspoke before, so
Yeah.
careful.
Well, I think that wraps it up. This is the fastest, shortest, most abbreviated panel that I've moderated. But I guess in the world of social media we live in, brevity is key. But this was awesome. Thanks, you guys. Like, incredible experience and point of view. And thank you to the audience.
Thank you.